October 1962. The world didn't know it yet, but it was closer to nuclear war than ever before in history. No alarms were sounded. No sirens went off. But behind closed doors in Washington and Moscow, civilization was hanging by a thread. A single mistake, a single misread order, could have ended everything. This is the story of the Cuban Missile Crisis and the 13 days that almost ended the world. On October 14, 1962, an American U-2 spy plane flew high over Cuba. At 70,000 feet, it was safe from most defenses. Its mission was simple: take photographs and return. What it captured changed history. When the film reached Washington, analysts noticed something unusual. Missile launch sites. Not defensive weapons, but offensive nuclear missiles. Placed just 90 miles from Florida. For the first time, the United States realized something critical. The Soviet Union could now strike American cities in minutes. Washington went silent. The president was immediately briefed. John F. Kennedy now faced a decision with no good options. Attack Cuba? Risk nuclear war? Do nothing? Accept Soviet missiles on America's doorstep. Every choice carried catastrophic risk. And while Kennedy debated, Soviet ships were already moving toward Cuba. On October 22nd, Kennedy addressed the nation. He announced a naval quarantine around Cuba. Not war, but close enough. American warships took positions across the Atlantic. Their mission was simple: stop Soviet ships carrying missiles. No mistakes allowed. One wrong move could trigger war at sea. Meanwhile, inside the United States, panic quietly spread. Families stocked supplies. Schools reviewed emergency drills. Everyone could feel something serious was coming, but no one knew how close it really was. At sea, Soviet ships continued forward. Radar tracked every mile. Tension increased hour by hour. Then something unexpected happened. Several Soviet ships slowed and turned back. For a moment, it looked like disaster might be avoided, but the crisis was far from over, because the missiles in Cuba were still being prepared. And then came the most dangerous day of all, October 27. That morning, an American U-2 plane entered Cuban airspace. Soviet forces fired a missile. The plane was destroyed. The pilot was killed. It was the first American casualty of the crisis. In Washington, military leaders demanded retaliation, airstrikes, invasion, immediate action. But Kennedy hesitated, because retaliation could trigger Soviet response elsewhere, possibly in Europe. At the same time, another crisis unfolded underwater. A Soviet submarine, B-59, was trapped beneath the Atlantic. No communication with Moscow. Heat rising. Air running low. American ships dropped depth charges. They were warning signals, but inside the submarine, they sounded like war. The captain believed the war had already started. He ordered a nuclear torpedo prepared. That weapon could destroy an entire U.S. carrier group. Launch required 3 approvals. 2 officers agreed. 1 man refused. Vasili Arkhipov. He stopped the launch. He insisted they surface and wait. The decision prevented what could have been the first nuclear strike of the crisis. The submarine surfaced. The world remained intact. But above ground, the worst moment was still coming. That same night, Kennedy faced his final decision. 2 Soviet messages arrived. One offered peace, remove missiles from Cuba if the U.S. promises not to invade. The other demanded, U.S. missiles must also leave Turkey. Publicly responding to both could collapse negotiations. So Kennedy chose a hidden path. Robert Kennedy met Soviet Ambassador Dobrynin in secret. A quiet deal was made. Soviets remove missiles from Cuba, U.S., promises not to invade, and later removes missiles from Turkey. Neither side wanted public humiliation. Both wanted survival. On October 28, Moscow announced a withdrawal. The crisis ended. No war. No missiles fired. Just silence after 13 of the most dangerous days in history. The world believed it had seen how close nuclear war could come. But few realized something more important. It wasn't luck that saved the world. It was restraint. Pilots followed orders. Commanders paused before striking. A submarine officer refused to launch. And leaders chose compromise over pride. After the crisis, a direct communication link, the hotline, was created between Washington and Moscow. Because next time, there might not be enough time for diplomacy. The Cuban Missile Crisis didn't end in victory. It ended in survival. And sometimes, that is the most important outcome of all.